You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast, exposing the struggles and celebrating the successes in the life of coaches who are action takers and creating authentic impact in today's world. Whether you're just starting out, expanding your reach, or exploding your impact, you're in the right place right now. Stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Now, here are your hosts of the Coach's Journey podcast.
There we go. What's up, Coaches Nation? Excited to see you again for another fun-filled week on this podcast. We've got our co-host, amazing, one-of-a-kind, Faisal and San. We gotta get some one of those. What are those called? You push the button and there's that virtual applause. I feel like we need.
Or we can do this.
Yeah, we can do this. It's not quite a bit as impressive sounding. I think I will work on getting some background noises. In fact, I think my husband does a lot of podcasting. I think he's got a whole little box that's got stuff. So more to come on that. But we're excited to have you here again today. Faisal is with us, and we've got a really unique and special story that you guys are going to hear from our guest today. His name is Zach Martin, and I've known him for quite a while. He has a really, really interesting story about how he pivoted out of a successful career in real estate and really followed his heart and his passion in what ended up coming out of some really hard circumstances in his life. So if you have been in a position where people have looked at you and been like, are you crazy? What possibly are you thinking about doing or shift that you're thinking about doing in life that might include coaching? I think that you'll get a little bit of courage and encouragement from Zach's story. So a couple minutes, we're going to dive into that. But first, Zach, we always talk about wins that we've had for the week, just as a way to start our entire conversation out on a positive, encouraging, supportive note. So what are some wins for you this week? It doesn't matter what they are.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here with you guys. And I guess the biggest win is that I just did my final presentation for law school, and I graduate on the 14th from law school, and that will be complete. And a 3-year journey is coming to the end, and I'm excited for what's next. Another win, I've had a whole bunch of wins. So another win I had is that I was leading my first group of small team people in achieving their goals in this last quarter, and we had a big celebration this last weekend, and got to love on each other and support each other and our successes and our path into what's next. And I made a 1-year, 5-year, 10 and 20-year vision statement for myself this weekend, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And when that all happens, it's going to be amazing. So
Awesome.
That's awesome.
I know that you've been beat up, as any good law student is, in law school. My brother has a law degree, and I saw what he went through 15, 20 or 25 years ago, however long that was. And so that is no small feat. So I want to honor you for that. That's incredible.
thank you.
Congratulations. That's
and
awesome.
what's even more incredible is how you're going to use that law degree, which we will get into in a minute.
Yeah, we might need your help too with all the things that we say here.
I'm always interested in helping and however I can. And I got some really good tools right now that are really going to serve me in being a contribution. So I'm stoked about what I've accomplished. So
that's awesome. I was going to say, Faisal, do you know something I don't? Are we going to need an attorney soon? What's going on?
I don't know. Some things that slip out in these live conversations we might need. You might need to have somebody on the side, just in case.
Well, I'll put him on speed dial, so we'll be good.
Sounds good. So I'll share a win as well. So actually, this was interesting because this last week I had a strategy session with somebody who I've wanted to work with for over a year, and he finally came around for a lot of reasons. I know that he's doing very well, and I also think that he's a powerful influencer, but he's not leveraging it in his business and life. and finally came around and we did a session, and he's a business guy. So he's like, I'd love a discount in your program, this and that. And this is the first time that came out of my mouth. And as I'm like, listen, I'm all in this. I'm going to support you to the best of my ability. And we're going to take this to the next level. I can't give you the discount. It's either a heck yes or a no. What do you think it will be? That's the first time I ever said that. So I surprised myself. Yeah, and he's all in. We started our session yesterday, actually. So for me, I mean, it's not what I said, or I'm not boasting that part, is that my confidence in the process is, it's not about me, but I know that people get results from this process. And I know that whatever he's invested in it, he'll get 10 times more than what he put in it. So even kind of entertaining the idea of a discount is not, like, it doesn't make sense to me anymore.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Zach is back. You froze for a bit.
I got a message saying I'm unstable, and I'm like, well, I'm really stable right now. It's the internet. It's not. So
I don't know. Technology picks up things sometimes. I'm kidding.
Yeah, totally. Right. What's under that? All right. Well, I'm glad to be back with you guys. So I missed most of that, Faisal, and I apologize, but it sounded like it was a great story about your friend and choosing in to support. So
no worries. No worries. Somebody heard it.
Yeah. So,
on the replay, I'll get to hear it next time. So
yeah. So our one of our friends who does a lot of sales has a sales background. He's a coach. Faisal, maybe this is where you got it from, because I think it's more like that either it's a heck yes or it's a no. Like if you're on the fence, then this may not be for you, but kind of making somebody really commit either fully or then they're not committing at all. And so I love that you tested that out, and you're like, it's either a heck yes or let's just not do it work right now. And he made the decision to be like, okay, heck yes. I love it.
Yeah. And I actually, as a reference, the first time I heard about that was from Rich Litvin in his book, The Prosperous Coach, a while ago, but it was reinforced by Anas, as he's been talking about it a lot.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm going to have to remember that I have a sales conversation tomorrow, so I'm going to have to remember that. I love it. So I would say my win today, and I'm kind of debating how much I go into detail on this, but my win is, that is in my memory, is this morning. And it's a tiny win, but one that is a good reminder. So in the morning, I wake my kids up using our Alexa, like they each have an Alexa in their bedroom, and I will do an announcement like time to get up. I'll do like it's raining out or it's a beautiful day, but then I always follow it up with jokes. And so I Google jokes for kids, jokes about the weather, jokes about snow, jokes about flowers. Like every day is something different. So I pump 5 to 7 stupid corny jokes to them through their Alexa in the morning. And anyway, so I did that, and then my husband comes home from the gym, and he's in the middle of getting ready, and I walk into the bedroom, and this is where I'll refrain from sharing too many details. But because I already had the joke, the joke rhythm in my brain, like I started doing some jokes with him, like cracking some jokes about what I was seeing, it was hilarious. And then he returned it and was making some puns. And anyway, and all of that to say, it was just a win because it really helped set the tone for me today. It's one of those fun little things that you can do to kind of bolster a relationship. And so we do a lot of joking in our relationship.
And we got the whole picture, actually. I don't think you were avoiding anything.
So yeah, we were cracking a lot of jokes, but it was fun. And, and then my husband said touche, and I was like, touche, and he was like, ah. So anyway, all right. So that was my win for today. All right. So we are going to just briefly talk about Coaching Mastery Community, which is our sponsor for this podcast. The Coaching Mastery Community is a virtual community of amazing group of coaches that have diverse backgrounds, diverse experiences, diverse certifications. And the whole point of the Coaching Mastery Community is to provide a supportive environment where coaches can grow personally, professionally. They can, commiserate when things go wrong, which they always do in our business, but then they get to learn how to maybe shift things or pivot things or do things differently, and have perseverance in their business so they can really have the impact that they're intending to have. How would you add to that, Faisal?
I think the whole thing comes down, like, we live in the world of information. There's nothing you can't learn for free anywhere on the internet. The problem is not information anymore. How are you going to implement that? That is the hardest process of every business. Every business that I've seen is the implementation is the hardest. That's why Elon Musk will just throw in the design for all his electric cars. Like, well, I'd love for everybody to make it, but it's not as simple as that. But just being around the community of coaches who are going to support each other and building our skill sets and our in terms of our art and craft, but also in terms of our business skill sets to move us forward. It requires a team. It requires other people's perspective, not just our own biases to confirm whatever we're doing. And that, I think that community perspective and support is probably one of the most crucial aspects of realizing and creating the kind of business and life that we all want to create. So that's one of the biggest parts of Coaching Mastery Community.
Well said. And in under 5 minutes, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I'm getting better at that.
It's a good elevator speech. That was perfect.
Yeah. All right. So Zach, we are so excited to have you here today. I've known you for probably over a decade. You are local to me here in Wyoming, which is probably why you had unstable internet.
I'm actually in Chadron, Nebraska today. So, which the same thing, right?
I was gonna say, well, then, I can't speak for Chadron, but you have been a real estate broker. You had your own brokerage, and you had a team. I shouldn't say that in past tense. You've had investment. Well, okay, you can update all of this.
I actually have a contract to sell my real estate business, and I intend to review it and sign it today. So I will probably today no longer own my real estate company. So
okay.
First time I've told that out loud to anybody, so this is the first announcement of that happening. So yeah, congratulations to me. I'm super excited. Yeah, it's a goal that I set in February, and got the contract over the weekend, and agreed to review it today. And if it's all perfect, I will be signing it today. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but I appreciate you giving me that room. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, people typically know your name in town. They know so what changed all of that? I mean, you're selling today, what changed all of that?
What changed was my vision for my life and my purpose here and how I'm going to serve my community. And I loved real estate. Greatest job I've ever had. An opportunity to be in contribution to the people that I care about, meet new people to serve and support, and help them make the biggest purchases in their lives, and really change their trajectory. And it was just a glorious opportunity. And through that experience, through my own personal experience that I had outside of real estate, I realized that I had something that I needed and got to do to serve on a higher level and to give back to the people that really needed me, and that I was called to be in contribution with. And so I shifted and moved into law. And how much of a detail do you want to get into about that?
I always believe that the more that we can connect with people and share our heart and kind of be vulnerable, the more that they're going to be able to really get something valuable out of what you've been through, which I know has been a lot of emotional turmoil.
Yeah. with real estate being my life, I had built a business in Cheyenne, Platinum Real Estate, and had 15 agents working for me at the height of 2017, and really hitting on all cylinders, with great teammates and people working hard and a growing business. And I had a son, and having a son changed my life, and I really appreciated just getting to be present and engaged with this little tiny human who needed me for everything, and I needed him for so much more than I ever realized. And about 6 months into his life, his mom and I separated, and I didn't get to see him every day. And it was about 3 weeks, a time period after seeing him every day, that I didn't get to see him, and I was crushed, and then was granted the opportunity to see him 2 hours twice a week, going forward, through the legal system, and I just knew that it wasn't right, and emotionally I was in resistance and resentment towards the situation, and those feelings really, that negativity and unease was permeating through my life. And I lost my passion for real estate, and I lost my passion for being in connection with other people, because the person that I most wanted to be in connection with, my son, and I were being prevented from having that opportunity. And so I was at a camp with my coaching group that I went through. They invited me to this camp, and I already had paid for it, and kept putting it off. And in June, when this all went down, they called me, and I was like, I get to see my son for a couple hours this week, and I can't leave him. And the next time that was opportunity that came up was in November, and I was debating about not going in November, and they talked me into it, and I developed my plan and idea for kids as their dads at the camp, and began running in that direction. And wrote some bills, got some bills passed to change some parenting laws in Wyoming, and then the following year wrote another bill, and it didn't get passed. And the main opponents to it were lawyers, and they make their money off of parents having fights over control of parenting time and access to their kids. And so I chose into law school to get more tools to serve. And while in law school, I really dove into my coaching academy and the personal mastery life leadership classes that I had at my Access within my group, and built a vision about how I can be in contribution to my community, the people that I love and care about, and build a better future for men and families through my coaching, and through my classes that I have for fatherhood, and my focus on family and parenting.
Yeah. There's a whole lot to unpack there.
Yes, there is.
That was like 8 minutes.
Thank you for your vulnerability, Zach, and thank you for sharing your heart with us, because that was like what was, to me, was really powerful, was that the journey that you went on is so connected to the experience that you had as a parent, as a father who wanted to be connected to his child, but legally there were challenges around that, and you used that as a leverage to create a whole completely new path. And I think that's a very, like, I can tell how powerful that is for you, because it's based on who you are, what your experience was, and how you want to serve. That's really powerful. Thank you for that. Sorry, Sherry, I cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, it is a powerful story. And so that's kind of why I want to unpack a little bit, because so based on what you're saying, just to make sure that, everybody kind of is following along, you had a baby. You participated in having a baby. Mm-hmm. You didn't have, and then
it did not come out of my body when it was when it was streaming. So thank goodness that I'd be a lot richer if I did.
You are not the miracle man in that way. And then you and the baby's mom broke up, and there was a lot of conflict there, and a lot of, and what you experienced when it ended up having to go through the legal system was a lot of inequity. And you didn't feel like you were given at least equal opportunity to raise your son as the mom did. And I definitely don't want to go into details about, all of whether the mom is a great mom or whether the mom is demonstratively, trying to, has challenges that are not in the favor of the child. But at the very least, there was inequity. And so you weren't having it. Like it was tearing you up, and you're like, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what to do. But then you developed a solution. You're like, well, if nobody else is going to fix this, I guess I'm going to need to step up and fix it. Was that kind of the mindset?
Yeah, as I went through the situation, I've had a lot of friends who have gotten divorced and had kids, and and they have parenting schedules, and most men especially don't talk about it. They just bottle it all up, and keep it inside, and just be tough through the situation. And so I reached out to a lot of my friends that I had known that had gone through similar situations, and I kind of knew their parenting time that they had, but I didn't know the why behind it. And I didn't understand how the system worked. And as I started diving into my friends' stories and other acquaintances' stories about what was happening in their experiences and their desires and dreams around parenting, I realized that most of these dads and people wanted to be involved in their kids' lives as much as possible, and that it was systemic, the problem of keeping them away. And that I knew that was not right. And that if you have loving people in the kids' lives, that the kids should get as much love as they possibly can from all the people that can give it to them and are willing and wanting. And so I was called to step up. There was nothing serving men in Wyoming or across lots of the country, and supporting them and giving them a safe space to come and talk and to be vulnerable and open about their experiences and their desires, and then to work through those things. And so that's why I developed Kids as Their Dads, was to be that support and that foundation for men to come and have a place where they could open up about the experience, and they could get other men and non-custodial moms to be in a space to support them, so they could understand they're not alone, and that they have a community, and that they're worthy of the opportunity of parenting and to embrace what they have.
Yeah.
What? Men don't express themselves? What are you talking about? They do it all the time.
I mean,
anger.
Right. Well, I think that anger being like a secondary emotion and stuff, that most men, especially talking about rub some dirt on it, boys don't cry, be strong. We teach boys early on and often to bottle those things up, to not be vulnerable and not be active. And little kids especially, they internalize what you say, and every moment that you have to have an impact, they hear everything. And sometimes that everything can be empowering and supportive, and sometimes it can be destructive, and it can tear away parts of them that they want to be in. And so through my experience, I got to dive into my feelings and my ability to grieve, and that I had never really grieved for anything in my past, and to experience true grief and sadness, and to embrace those feelings and take them on as something to empower me to be able to be better for myself and for my community, was challenging and empowering. And because of that experience, I'm fuller, and I know that I have the ability to have the pendulum swing all the way over into the deepest despair that I've ever felt, and that I can be there and also shift back into the greatest worthiness and empowerment to be the man I want to be going forward. And so I'm infinitely better because of it. I definitely don't wish I had that experience, and I know that the man I am today is only in this space because of the experiences that that allow me to feel on every level.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's such a new, different model of what it means to be a man. I mean, most of what I grew up with and most of what I've seen men to be, and then as I went into the coaching world, working with a lot of tough men, you find out that the toughest men are the most broken. It's just that nobody is aware of it. The ones who carry the whole weight of the world on their shoulders, and nobody knows about it. And the stories are incredibly tragic, because I mean, literally, I had a session with a client the other day, and what he was sharing, I'm like, well, why do you want to share, and why do you want to connect with people? Why do you want to do what you're doing? He's like, my dad, up until the point that he was terminal in his illness, nobody knew about it. And it wasn't just that. He had so many challenges that nobody in the family was aware of. He just came and smiled and talked about all that stuff, and he was tough. But he's like, I wish I knew about it. I wish as his son I knew about it, I would have helped. And he's like, I want to be the kind of dad where, like, I show who I am. I don't need to hide that. I have my vulnerabilities. I have my weaknesses. I have my downsides. I have my strength. But I need, this is a family. This is a community. And that model, just like a lot of the older models, the corrupted models that we've been given, they're not working anymore. And you saw that head on, that if you were to just become that tough guy and not share who you are and what you're going through, you would have never even acknowledged that you're going through that process. Just like all the people that you knew in the process who never actually shares, like, hey, this is a hard thing for me. Mm-hmm. This is not, and like you said, and it normally shows up as anger, but then what's below that? Mm-hmm. Or the grief, the sadness, the pain. And unless the other side knows that, unless other people know that, nobody else can face the reality of the situation. So I really want to honor you on your courage to actually bring a whole different dimension to what it means to be a man. And I do feel very aligned with that, because in different ways, I saw that firsthand, that it doesn't work to be that person, to not share not go through that grief process and actually notice that your own system is telling you something very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely. Just being open and vulnerable, like, that the client that you had, like, he just wanted to be there to support his dad, and his dad didn't feel like he was able to allow others to be in support of him, and that he had to do it all by himself, and that being that pillar of strength doesn't leave you open to the possibility of that community and that connectiveness, and that to really be connected with somebody is to be vulnerable and open with everything about your experience. There's no real good training inside, like, our schools don't teach those things, and most of our families don't know them either. And so they do the best they can, but to have that opportunity to really lay it out there and be completely open with the people that you're surrounded by is such a powerful opportunity to connect and to build the connections that really stand the test of time.
Yeah.
I really want to break free from my own masculinity expectations. I'm just kidding. Sorry. I had to say something.
Right. Well, let's see, you have the guy all the time that's in that, so you're good.
I know. And I there have been a few times where I'm not throwing him under the bus at all. My husband is amazing. He's one of the best dads I have ever met. But there are times where he will say just off the cuff some things to my son, and I'm like, and I will step in. I'm like, it's okay that he's crying right now. It's it's just, it comes out, I think, without even realizing. So I love that you're bringing some awareness to that. Mm-hmm. What I'm curious, Zach, is, you're in real estate, and I would say that and I can't speak for the whole nation, but particularly in our corner of the world here, emotional intelligence doesn't necessarily flow freely in our real estate community.
Mhm.
At what point did you start to really realize and start to kind of get on that the personal development journey, kind of through this whole experience?
Well, I had been on it for a while. I love personal development stuff. Like the books that I read are personal development. I have since I got out of college the first time, and those are the books that I get into. Like I don't read nonfiction books or fiction books. I only read nonfiction, and personal development has been the things that I've been called to completely. But most of them are business related, real estate related, things on those lines. What I was into, and I never really just understood that I was lacking in my emotional intelligence because it didn't come up. I never had an opportunity to dive into those things. And when everything's all happy and you're on that side of the pendulum of success and enjoyment and contentment and abundance, those kind of things take care of themselves, and you keep building on those skills. And to have that shift and so greatly, so quickly threw me for a tailspin. And so choosing into the things that were going to serve me in that moment were difficult because I was challenged by just how I was feeling, and in that that struggle within myself about like, this isn't okay, and how do I get through this? I went back to the tools that had been serving me in the past, and chose into a group called Clemmer, which is where I've got my coaching through and stuff, and done a lot of my personal development work, the vast majority of it, with that group, and they helped me see that. They allow me a safe space to come into my true beingness of sadness and grief, and to experience those things, and to know that in those spaces that it's okay, and that I had people to support me and allow me to be open to that. And as I discovered those feelings more completely, then I really dove into them. And it was my first year of law school that I was in that work of self-discovery, and then coronavirus happened. But I got to really dive into myself, and spend a lot of time on realizing who it is that I was choosing to be, and why I was choosing to be that person. And I initially signed into law school out of resistance and revenge, and to teach people lessons. Through that, it got me into law school. And then as I developed myself and my understanding of my energy and my feelings, I knew that my resistance and revenge was not going to be enough to carry me, and also not allow me the opportunity to really serve. And that I got to shift myself into to how I was going to make a difference for the people who needed it, and allow them a place to be. And I developed my approach towards contribution and support through that experience, and spent a lot of time journaling and free thinking, hiking tons, and spending time with myself, discovering me, being with me, and also how I wanted to give to those that I am surrounded by.
So I really love what you're sharing, and this is actually for coaches listening to this. This is very, like, it's such a powerful shift, because as you shared, you got into law school because of revenge and anger and all those things, and that was an important emotion for you to understand. Now the problem is that most men, or most people in general, they only understand emotions at that level. And when you're talking about grief, sadness, pain, these are, as you go to the layers of emotions, you find out that your system is giving you signals. The problem is that we're blocking it with our mind, because we're overriding it. And on top of that, this is very important, because in the world that we live in, there's a whole concept of positivity that has come into the picture. Being positive, being optimistic. These are all amazing things, but they become masks to cover up other things over time. So if you're not actually going deeper into these signals and understanding what they are, then you're creating a pretense of positivity. It's not actual positivity that naturally comes up from our system going into equilibrium. Our natural state is positive. It's growth. It is happiness. That's our normal state. And then our other state, which we call it in biology, fight, flight, freeze response, that is a temporary state that goes towards anger, that goes towards resentment. It's because a lot of it emerges from fear that something has taken away or is going to take away something from us. And now we get angry, we get resentful, we get all that stuff. But all that needs to be processed. The problem is that we're not taught how to process this stuff. So we stay at the level of that fight or flight, and then we carry that intention with us. Now, think about it. If you hadn't, I mean, for everybody that watched it, if Zach hadn't processed those emotions, had he not gone deeper, his intention would have still been revenge, anger. Even though he would have done the same thing, but what would have been the effect of it? And then now we talk about like the bigger political world of, oh, men are destructive, this and that and the other. Well, they were never taught to deal with that part of themselves. I wasn't taught that growing up. I saw a lot of men who were incredibly, like, if you got to know them, they were amazing. They were gentle creatures, but they were never taught how to deal with anger. They were never taught how to deal with fear. In fact, they were told to amplify those things because that made them more tough.
Yeah.
And now we create these programs around, well, men should be like this, men should. Well, it's good to tell people what they should be or give them an indication. But if they don't know how to go through a process, then they can't do anything about it. They don't have the tools, they don't have the process, they don't have the awareness. And so you're modeling that process, which is very powerful. But for coaches who are listening to this, it's very elusive, because when somebody talks and they're in that state of quote unquote positivity, and I had a client, I want to share this. It was the third session I was with him. Incredibly positive human being, amazing guy. And I asked him, it just hit me. I don't know, it's something he said. He was overly positive. And like, it didn't sound authentic to me. And I asked him, I'm like, this is an odd question. And I'm a coach that helps people be more positive. I'm like, why is it so important for you to be so positive? And optimistic and all that. And that completely blew open a lot of things. The whole thing came from his intention. He was afraid of dying early. Why? Because his dad had passed away early on, because he never took care of himself. And in his mind, he decided at some point that he has to be positive. Otherwise, he's going to catch an illness and he's going to die. Now, the problem with that is that we know that unless you process deeper emotions, that might actually show up in your physiology at some point. He wasn't doing any of that. He was just pretending to be positive. And when he figured that out, it opened up a whole different world. And I know at this point, and I'm in touch with him after a few years too, he completely changed who he was. It wasn't, his intention was not based on fear of dying. Now he needed to discover who he is and how he wanted to show up. He's still positive, but he's a more, like, he doesn't hide aspects of himself because of that.
Yeah. And so powerful with that experience of like that recognition of that mask that he had on, that I'm positive. And because we don't have those skills, I didn't have the skills before. When I was hurting, I would always say, oh, I'm fine. Oh, everything's going great. Oh, I'm just, everything's, and I hid my feelings of sadness because I wasn't open to the conversation. And I didn't feel like other people were also open to that conversation, that we have a society that being positive, being upbeat, putting everything, brushing it off and just going with your day is a societal norm we have, as opposed to having that open, honest communication about where we are and in that moment, and then having those deeper conversations of understanding. And that's not something that our society has seen as a strength, and people don't have the skills. We don't teach it, unfortunately, and it needs to be taught, because our kids need it, and the adults need it, and we need to have that strength of being complete in our experience. and being okay with that, and then making those choices to recognize it, process, and then move in the direction you want. So I love the stuff that you guys do into coaching. I'm like so excited to hear these stories about connecting with people and supporting them in their growth. It's so empowering. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. Another story came to mind. This recently a group that we started, and it's a group of investors, very successful individuals. You would consider them, and most of the group they were actually in that one session, it was all men. It was 14 men showing up, and the first session that I was taking them through along with my partner was looking at their vision of what they're creating. And for most of these guys, their vision, a lot of it is around, well, I want to create a life of freedom for my family and for myself, and I want to do this and the other, and I want to achieve this many doors. But they hadn't gone deep into as who they're becoming in the process. And a lot of the vision building process that I take people through is getting connected to who you're becoming as a human being. It was interesting. So as we go through the session, they explore their vision in a deeper way, and then I walk them through this visualization. And at the end of it, you see most of you could see emotions. There's processing. Many of them are tearing up. As we finished the session, and one of the guys who's an employee of the organization we're working with, so he's participant, but he's also observing it from the standpoint of how these sessions work. And we did a feedback session after. He's like, I completely misjudged all these guys. I thought they would think all this stuff is woo-woo shit, because they had, and I know why that is, because he has had multiple conversations with these guys. None of them were vulnerable enough to talk about who they are deep down. Now, as a conversation within the session, when they reconnected with their vision of who they're becoming, all of a sudden vulnerability comes into the picture. All of a sudden now they get to know the real human being behind. Mm-hmm. That whole is like, holy shoot, this is not that tough guy who was talking about his achievements as a human being who has struggles, who's grown, who has a powerful vision for his family. He wants to connect, he wants to build a community, he has a purpose. It's not unidimensional. There's so many dimensions to who we are, and it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. There's so much depth to human beings, but we've been taught to live in this unidimensional way in our life. We're given this model of being a certain way. And unless we're exploring these other dimensions, which is where the coaching is, the world of coaching is that, who are you? And in this, one of my favorite quotes from spiritual teachers, who were you before the world got its hands on you?
Yeah, that's a powerful question. Wow. I love that. You're talking about these guys building all their businesses and that kind of stuff and being so focused on their production and the things, it's like, what do I do to have the things that I want so I can be the person I want to be? And we have this paradigm in our society of that structure being in place. And so like people, when you meet people like, oh, I do banking and I have, 5 kids and I have all these things. And you never get to that deeper level of who that person is as a human, who are they deep down, what are their qualities that define their beingness. And I focus myself daily on like being the man that I choose to be and the qualities that serve me, and setting my intention for my beingness. And then by my beingness, then I get to do the things that are going to serve me to get there and have the things that I want out of that. But we start usually with our doings to have and then be free or connected with my family. Like when I have all this stuff, by doing all these things, I'm going to be here. Whereas you can be there now and set that tone, and then the doing and the having come out of your beingness. And that paradigm shift is so powerful, because at every moment you get to determine who you are and what qualities are going to serve you. And when you shifted those guys, I envisioned it in my head of that power. I was getting chills and stuff because of that realization of where they were focusing and how that shift can move them is so powerful.
Yeah. And what I heard based on what you said is that we get to be human beings versus human doings.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. we're not human doings. We are human beings, and our beingness is what defines us. And you can choose that in every moment of your life.
Zach, you've brought up a couple times kids deserve dads. And so I want to spend a little bit more time on that, because not everyone who's listening to this is a full-time coach. And what I mean by that is, they spend 20 to 30 to 40, hopefully not 40, that's burnout hours, but maybe 20 to 30 hours a week doing group coaching or individual coaching, and that's their focus. But then there's others, and I would classify myself in this as well, that the amount of coaching that I do is probably a pretty small percentage. I don't have hours that I'm just having a coaching conversation. Rather, it's integrated into another area of what I do. And I would love for you to unpack Kids Deserve Dads and what that is, what its mission is, how you're serving it, how you're growing it, and then how coaching fits into that, just to kind of help people, I think, brainstorm around how they can have an impact in maybe a way that they can be a little bit more creative and less traditional.
Yeah, thank you. Kids Deserve Dads, it's been a work in progress, and it's going to continue to that. But our mission, which I've been redoing recently, is men empowering men through grace, compassion, and love to honor themselves, their family, and society. Is basically the mission we have right now, and it's about helping men and families be connected, using the tools like intention and worthiness and abundance and urgency to set themselves up in a position where they can win, and they can be connected with their families on a level that they really truly desire, and seeing that is possible and available to them. And so what we've done in the past, we had mostly done support groups, some fatherhood classes, and a lot of connecting opportunities, fishing, camping, building campfires, car shows, Santa Clauses twice, during Christmas time, 2 Easter egg hunts to allow non-custodial parents an opportunity to be with their kids and have that connection in a place that was supportive and serving them. And had some great opportunities to connect with some people, but going forward, where I see Kids Deserve Dads going is into a lot of different realms, but being focused on building a community of men that are open, honest, and vulnerable with themselves, so that way they can connect with their families, to understand who they are as a human and what values are important to them, and then realizing that they have power with their choice to make those differences in their connection in their lives. And if their intention's clear on what they want to accomplish, they get to find the right tool that's going to get them over the wall and to accomplish their goals. And if they want to be in touch with their family, they get to understand who they are, and they get to understand how they show up. And that if you're in a moment where you're stressed out, how do you recognize that before it comes out in anger or brashness, and they can actually choose into that recognition and seeing where they are in a moment and acknowledging and feeling that, and then choosing the quality that's going to serve them into being that connection. So, when kids are having a hard time getting ready for school and stuff, you can yell at them and stuff, but is that going to serve you and serve them in their day being supportive? Or do you collect yourself, come from a quality that's going to serve the moment and build that connection, and also the context for what the day is going to bring. And so my intention is that the trainings that we're going to have are going to help men see the power that they have in those feelings, and that they can choose into being the persons that they want to be, and that it's going to serve them in every moment of their life. And when they're having those moments, when they're feeling stressed, when they're feeling anxious, that they can recognize that and be in that experience, and then move themselves into the qualities that are going to bring them what they want in their life.
And if I could speak, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, because I am just, this is an external observer of kind of
Okay.
what I've seen in you, is when you first were experiencing the challenges around time with your son, you used the word revenge, that that you kind of had this perspective of wanting like, screw you, you're not going to control me, like really anger and wanting to change the system, wanting to change all of that stuff out of anger, out of frustration, and because you literally wanted time with your son. Now, over this course, it has shifted from literal time fueled by anger to emotional connection fueled by love and compassion and true connection. Like this transformation that you've taken, from my perspective, is beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it
I
is.
appreciate that.
It truly is. And also all those things that you shared, like, I want to be a part of that. That sounds incredible. Like you pretty much summed up all the things I do anyway: camping and fire, and then just spending quality time and just being able to be around your kid without having to constantly yell. And that's a struggle for me. And I've yelled at my kids and have regretted it every time. They teach me more about that. Is like, like they're much more calm than I am a lot of times. But I mean, what you're doing is incredibly powerful, but even more than that, it's needed right now in the world. Especially in the culture that we live in, because a lot of men know that a lot of what they've been taught is not working, but then what is the new way? It's not enough to tell people, stop doing what you're doing. That creates a vacuum and that creates more confusion. But it's okay, what are we replacing that with? And you're taking people through a process that changes the quality of that experience. That to me is powerful. So I really, really appreciate, and it's really inspiring that you're doing something like that. It's needed.
Yeah. I thank you, and I appreciate your guys' kind words. I have, yeah, I have a lot of things on my plate that I'm trying to do, and one of my big intentions is building a school where kids get to dive into these things and have a safe space, and families can come together and work on these tools together, and they can start discovering how to have these conversations where you don't have to say, "Oh, good to see you. Oh, how are you today? Oh, I'm great," and that you give this facade of greatness when deep inside you might be just like dying, and you walk around the corner and cry because you aren't being true to yourself, and where you can have an honest discussion with somebody and people genuinely want to have that, and they can ask the questions and be in connection without having like a guilty feeling, like pain and sadness and grief and despair are, I don't know how to deal with those with myself, and so I can't give you the space to process in front of me also. And having a place where people can be in those experiences and choose into the connection is a space that I'm providing, and that I'm going to be in, and I want people around me who are desiring to have that connection also, and helping men and families go through that and see the power and positiveness that comes out of being in connection with the people that you care about on a level that moves everybody forward, as opposed to the facade.
Yeah.
I think it's open, honest, responsible communication. That's what I want, and that's how I choose to live, and then I empower that into other people, and that having that open honesty with yourself and being responsible for your choices, that those things are going to set you up for success and happiness in your life, and allow others to be in support and connection with you, so you can have that community of people who move you forward, and you can support them moving forward too.
You actually reminded me of this scene. Sometimes I share this with my clients. Who's an X-Men fan here, or superhero fan? Anybody? All right, good. So there's this one of the X-Men movies is, I think, I forget the name, but Anyway, so there are two characters here. There's Mystique, who's the blue character. If you've seen any of the movies, and she's young at that time in that movie. And there's Magneto. Even though Magneto is supposed to be the villain, but he was very wise in that situation. So Mystique, she's in her normal human form. She doesn't have the blue physiology that she normally has. She's lifting this barbell. She's lying down, lifting it. And Magneto comes into the room, who can control metal. Magneto, magnet. So he makes it a little bit heavier. As soon as he does that, it drops on her, and she transforms back into her blue self and just holds the weight. And he comes close to her and he says, imagine you didn't have to pretend to be somebody that you're not, how much strength you would have.
Wow.
I was like, boom. And that's men for you. We pretend, we create this facade of strength, but we don't actually know what our strength is. So most of our energy is built around, like, we show that we have strength. Most of our energy is spent on that facade. But what we don't realize is, if we let go of that, I'd say a good 80-90% of our true strength comes into the picture, which we're not even aware of.
Wow, completely agree. And I am going to watch the X-Men again, because that is a really powerful scene that I did not ever pick up on. And I want to experience that. So I'm definitely going back.
Oh, come on, Zach. He just wanted any excuse to go back and watch those movies again.
You know, with my son, the last couple of years, he loves those movies. And so as I knew how much he loved them, I would go and I was introducing him to them. I'd go back and I would watch the scenes and the characters that he already knew that had cool scenes in other movies to introduce him to other characters. So I would have them all set up. You know, when you're 3-4 years old, you have like a 5-minute attention span. So you got to hit the key points right away. And I would set all the movies up on Disney Plus, like already lined up. So we could just go in there and he'd be like, whoa, Hulk and Thor fighting. I want to watch more Thor movies, Dad. Like, Thor's cool, you know, and setting up that opportunity. But that is such a powerful thing that you're talking about, that understanding your true power. It's not, you know, we've built this facade that and as a society that just that putting on that blank face, being cool, being a rock, and not letting anything in or not showing anything is strength. And when you really allow that wall to be broken down and your full beingness can be expressed, that's where the real power comes from. And when you have the opportunity, when you feel all those things and you can be in them and you understand them, you can feel them harder and quicker, and you can shift earlier. Whereas if you aren't in the experience of feeling if I'm not in my experience of feeling when I wasn't, of feeling my sadness and my despair of my situation, my disempowerment, when I was struggling to resist it as opposed to being in it, it lasted so much longer. I was battling with it, you know, and the battles, when you're going head to head, they last a long time. And when I accepted them as being who I was in that moment and allowed them to process and flow through me, they flowed through so quick. And then I was clear and I was able to move. And now I'm able to shift now through those emotional experiences in my life. When I feel despair, and I feel it, when I feel sad, when I'm such a small fish in a huge pond, can I do anything? And I realize that I can do so much, and I get to be in that moment, in that experience, and allow it to process in my beingness, and then I get to shift into my power, and it goes so much faster. And I think once everybody starts getting that realization, they start feeling those things, that those shifts transform so much quicker. And my intention is to help men discover that, and then make those choices to shift, and the power that they're going to have in their lives is going to be infinitely greater because of that wholeness.
Yeah, I love that. And just for coaches, I want to point out is that I love working with families, and I've coached a few families by now. And when you see the dynamic in families, when you see the wife, the husband, the kids, and one of the best transformational experience I've had as a coach is when I've coached the wife, the husband, the two teenagers. and you start to look at the bigger picture, and you start to see every variable acting in there. And one of the things that was in one particular family I was working was not working was the man in that family was not open. And it showed up in very simple things. The daughter would ask a question and be like, "Oh, you'll be great. You'll be great." He's like, and when I would talk to her, she's like, "I really want his honest feedback. I want him to go deeper. He just says you'll be great." Or the wife would give me a statement, and I knew this. I had started working with the husband a while ago. He's like, he has no emotions other than his positivity. And to her, it doesn't look real. And it's not real because human beings are not always positive. We go through this ebb and flow. So, and that's his wife. He's like, if he's not real, what he's giving me is not real. And he was trying to sell this vision of creating this life, and she doesn't even buy him as real.
Yeah.
So now imagine how many challenges that creates on them. But once you bring everybody on common ground that, hey, I'm a human being, let's talk about it. These are the things, burdens that I have on my shoulder. I don't know how to figure that out, but I need you guys on this team. This is it. And that's where the family opens up. That's where the community opens up. Okay, sure. I want to contribute there. I know I can help you with that. You take on this other thing. I'll take on this thing. Now we're talking about a human community starting to build versus one person taking on the load of everything. And it doesn't have to be, in this case, it was a man, but I've also seen a woman doing that. And women do this all the time but with other things. They take on too many things that they don't need to. But it's that, and for coaches to understand that, well, what's happening in the family dynamic? What's happening in their mind, and how do they perceive it? How do they react to the situation? Do they ask for support, or do they just think that they're going to handle everything and they don't have any tools or the awareness or the ability to do that, or nor do they want to do it? And unless they're clear about it, unless they're not reacting to that situation, they will pretend that they're going to figure all this out, and in the meantime everything is breaking down around them. And they're not aware of it because they're reacting to a situation, and they're reacting emotionally, and they don't know how to process these emotions. Like, this is such a complex thing. And that's why I think coaches are so important in this, that we help them create clarity around who they are deep down, not just what they're trying to achieve. Yeah. Because I think the easiest thing, like I'll share this, that I spent a couple of days with the kids. And after that, I told my wife, I'm like, my job is much easier. I'd rather do that, to be honest. And this is something a lot of times I say to my clients who are men, I'm like, I know that you know that your job is actually much easier than your wife's job. They laugh, they know it at a deep, but then they pretend like, like it's actually very easy for me to be in this office and work on all the big projects. But as soon as I go downstairs and spend time with family and kids, there's more complexity there. And how I show up as a leader there is probably even more important than how I show up here a lot of times. Yeah.
And what a great notice around, the confidence, the control, the power, and in your situation around coaching and supporting others and stuff. And when you're interacting with your family, like, it's so important, but that there's all these humans that you're with all the time in constant contact with, and managing that dynamic, and that sometimes that is a harder spot to be in, and being with the people that you're coaching that are not in that close proximity, being easier, as opposed to being the challenging stuff of being in the connection with the people that you're truly the most important connections in your whole entire life, in the family foundation. So, I spend a lot of my free time, I don't have my son as often as I would like, and I spend a lot of my free time really being focused on the intention I want to set, what it's going to look like when we're together, and how do I choose into the things that are going to move us forward constantly. And we were talking about like great books and stuff that we've read, and The Conscious Parent by, I'm gonna mess her name up, Saberi.
Shafali?
Yeah. Incredible about like meeting your kids where they are and seeing who they are as a human, and then building who you are as a parent around your kids, because they already have a program. Every kid's different, right? I mean, Sherry's got like 11 teen kids, so all of those, all of them are completely different. And when you are in that connection with each of them, how do you show up in those moments to be the mom that they need you to be, to allow them to achieve their greatnesses? And understanding that power that you have, and that understanding of how you show up for them, and that it's not about like, do this, do that, do this, do that, which always happens. I mean, that's just human nature, but that recognize when that's happening, and then saying, okay, how do I connect with my kid? How do I come into their experience and help them see an option that's going to move them in a direction that they really want to have? And like, I don't do timeouts, and my son always loves talking about how we do time ins, and that it's a time of connection. Like, oh, we're uneasy right now. There's an energies flowing that are not serving, and how do we recognize them, be with them, and then shift? And he's 4, or he just turned 5, but he's 5, and we have like these real conversations about time ins, and that, and he loves that refocus. And seeing how that connection makes such a big difference, it motivates me. Once that, as soon as I start getting that positive feedback from choosing into his experience and seeing where he was and meeting him there and moving him and allowing him the space to move himself towards the beingness that he wanted, was so empowering, and it just like filled my heart. And I just wanted to like be with him in all those moments to help him discover himself and grow. And I come at it with that every day. I cherish the experience. Every moment I get, I'm like, how are we going to connect this time? And what's it going to be like? And yeah, and making those choices in those moments when you're like, you want to yell, and also how are you going to serve to make it a win-win and a positive experience to move our relationship and our lives forward. And I'm infinitely a better dad because of really discovering how to be in connection with my son and how to serve him the best that I can.
So I was on a date night with my middle daughter a couple weeks ago, and we're sitting at the restaurant apart from each other, facing each other, and I'm asking her some questions. She's the quietest of my kids, and first of all, we've got a piano tuner here, so here this like, what is that? He's tuning the piano. Apologies, but
it's your background music for the suspenseful story.
And then you're gonna hear the da-da, and I ask her, I'm asking her coaching questions, because that's my intention when I go on date night, is to connect, is to get to know them more, understand their desires, their wishes. And so I asked her something to the effect of, so, what does your best self look like? Something like that. And she looks at me at a blank stare, and she's like, Mom, why are you asking me these weird questions? Like, and she like wouldn't give me an answer. And then she like shut down. I was like, oh God. So then I had to really, really use my creativity around getting her to open up again. But yeah, I mean, it's that journey of being a parent and just constantly trying to connect, and then failing, and then like trying to come around the back door, side window, in through the chimney, like however we need to connect and get to know our kids more, so we can serve them in the best way that we can, and in the only way that we can as parents. Like, I'm the only mom that my kids will ever know, and no, biologically there can never be a replacement for me. And so that's my like responsibility that I and how I speak about it. And it's like, it's not a burden responsibility, it's a joyful responsibility, but it's huge, and one that we must take seriously.
Yeah.
One of the things that remind me of, as Zach talked about, conscious parenting. So in our community, we have at least, I think, 2 coaches who are conscious parenting coaches that come from that model. And I actually went through, I think Sherry went through that process too. And not only like here's a power of a community of coaches like that. And I shared that, I think, in one of the last podcasts too, is that so Mila, one of the coaches, she took me through this process of, and I've worked a lot on the emotional intelligence part quite a bit, but she took me through this process to visually, for me to identify emotions better, because I was having a challenge identifying some of the things that was happening. And it was so powerful. It was really powerful. And not only did it impact me positively, I asked him, like, can I take my clients through that? And he's like, yeah, of course. And so far I've done, I think, 3 clients I've taken through that process, and they're like, boom. So just that one tool is incredibly powerful, and this kind of adds to the power of being around the right people and the right community of influencers and coaches or teams that can help you develop yourself faster. I would have never used, even if somebody shared that tool somewhere, I've been like, okay, it looks great. But she took me through the process. I saw the impact of it. And now I'm much more motivated to share that with my clients and take them through that process. And now I'm adding to that. I'm already starting to build a different approach to the same thing. So it's just and this completely goes back to, like, whether you're a man or a woman or the business owner, everything you're going to do involves other people. How do we work with others? How do we learn? How do we grow? How do we work on our own strengths and whatever we want to feel passionate about? And then who else can support us on the path? And there's this book I'm reading right now, Who Not How, by Dan Sullivan, and that's what they amplify more now. Like, you don't need to look for how, you don't need to look for somebody that's going to help you.
Yeah, and that is such an incredible book on really realizing that leveraging yourself with the people who are also on the same page, and getting the people on your team who are motivated. And you don't have to do everything. You can leverage people and getting the right people to serve the roles. That's a really great book. So have you guys read the while we're talking about books, I freaking love books, but and we've done a lot of emotional stuff today. Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. I don't know if you guys have read that one, but she talks about 81
the power of positivity. I love the power of vulnerability. Sorry, the book, that one for Brene Brown. I love it. That one.
It's her newest one. She describes 81 emotions throughout this book, and the little nuances between, like, despair and grief or sadness, and that they're maybe on the same spectrum, but that they are different. And so I have intention around this summer and stuff diving into that book deeper and actually, like, reading those words about what that feeling is, that emotion is, and then diving into that emotion, finding a moment in my life where I've been there, and then feeling that. And I think the clarity around, like, if I could have 81 emotions that I could describe and understand in my beingness of experience, the power I would have in all those moments to see where I was, and then to have the tools on myself to shift into the emotion and energy that I want. Having that understanding of of our emotional states and the ability to connect with them through the words and understanding of what they are is so incredibly powerful.
And I want to amplify that. First of all, I love Brene Brown. I think she's probably the foremost expert in vulnerability and emotions and how it shows up in our life. And she's incredibly authentic and funny. So beyond that, I want to share, like, how like what you shared is important in the sense that, so when we label emotions, we're identifying what the energy is in our system. So we're making sense of how our system operates. And a lot of what we've been taught is to understand our system at the level of intellect. The problem with intellect is it's a made-up world we have created, and it's a powerful world. However, the way human beings operate is we feel these energies. So when you feel like so if you feel choked up, if you feel like you can't express yourself, you'll feel it around your throat, and the energy shows up here, but you can't identify what that is. So it looks like something is going to go wrong, or you feel something in your chest. These are energies that are in our system. It's a lot like when a child is born, something as simple as hunger makes them cry, and they don't yet have an understanding of that this is a normal process. In the same way, we don't know that we have certain processes in our body, energy systems, that they're there for a reason. We don't need to react to it. We just need to process it and watch it and how it operates, and then start to leverage it as we get better at it. And the power of identifying these emotions helps us understand, just like when we feel the pain of hunger, we're like, oh, that's hunger. I don't need to lose my mind. I just need to go in a bit and eat food. Or we can even pause it and we say, I'm fasting. I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that power to fast. Wow. I've been fasting and I absolutely love it. I've released 60 pounds in the last like 9 months, and mostly through fasting and just being intentional, realizing that it's a moment and that's going to pass. And I won't be hungry, and my clarity will be clearer, and my focus will be greater, by choosing into releasing that need and desire to feed my beingness, feed my body. That it's not that I can control that urge, and it's been a powerful realization, and fasting, it's so great. I think it's something that humans have done over time, and that our Western society is kind of like, we have to have breakfast, you got to have lunch, you got to eat 3 times a day, and you need to have snacks, and all food is so integrated into our experience, and that I function at a higher level when I'm fasting than I do when I'm consuming.
Yeah, and that just is an indication, similar to anything else. Human beings have the power to put a pause on their and the stimulus that's inside of us. We can be hungry and we can put a pause. That's what makes us human beings. In fact, we can consciously say, hey, I'm going to fast for this day or this week, even though there's pain in there. In the same way, we can feel emotions that you were talking about, and we can identify them. Hey, that's what's happening, but I have the ability to process it and not react to that emotion. And I can start to see things clearly. That conscious ability is probably what makes us human beings in a lot of ways. But we have to be able to identify what's actually happening. Otherwise, our system reacts to it, whether it's hunger or something else. So I really love that. We do need to transition towards the end of this conversation, and we can talk about this for days, and I won't be tired about these topics.
No, yeah, I can hang on with you guys all day long, I think, without any reservation. So thank you so much for the time.
And hopefully we will be someday. We will sit together around a campfire, hopefully.
Yeah. Off this call, I'll tell you some of the stuff that I'm doing, because but I would love to be in a campfire with you and have no electronics, and just get to be present in that experience. I think that'd be a magical opportunity, and
I would love that.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're actually this year we're gonna be able to go to States from Canada, so we're heading out with our RV. So we're gonna be doing a lot of traveling. So we'll probably end up at your side of the world too. But we do want to transition towards the last 4 questions that we ask all guests, and I think you're gonna love these questions. So the first one you're gonna love, since you talked about books. What is one of the most influential books in your journey, or in your coaching journey?
Oh, gosh, I mean, to pick one is so hard. And I think if I was going to pick one book that has been a foundational piece in my experience through coaching and life, would be The Compassionate Samurai, by Brian Clemmer. The Compassionate Samurai, and I'll text it to you guys. It is, it resonates in my beingness so much, and when I think about the lessons that it has inside of it and how they serve me, it has allowed me so much clarity, and I've probably read it a dozen times. And it's one of those books that you can pick up, and at any moment, turning a page, you can reflect and be in that experience any day. And there's just so much wisdom and guidance inside that book to choose the life you want.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I haven't read that one.
Yeah, Compassionate Samurai. I'll share it with you guys. So.
Please do. Thank you. And what would you say are your hobbies? I know you do a lot of amazing things, but what brings you joy? What do you do on a consistent basis?
I hike. I hike a lot. My son's probably hiked. He just turned 5. He's close to 300 miles that he's gotten in so far in his young life.
Wow.
So we spent a lot of time in the woods. Getting that opportunity to be with myself, to not have electronics, and to be with nature and just absorb everything that's around me and have soft eyes in the experience just moves me forward so much and allows me to process and work through my experience. So hiking, biking are some of the things that I really enjoy. I love books on tape or audiobooks as it's called nowadays, not books on tape.
You're mentioning tape.
We're not 80.
give me a tape deck and a book on tape, and I'm
Still got tape.
I know, I still call it that. I need to get into audiobooks, but so yeah, audiobooks. I love having just an earpiece in and just getting to hear positive words and I'm just going or guidance on living my best life as I'm going through my day, and it just moves me. So
Awesome. Well, those are amazing. It's funny how many people who have been on this podcast, most of them actually have some kind of hobby around nature that they've described. It's either being outside walking or hiking or camping or something like that, which is very interesting. It reminds me of Thoreau's quote is that, let me see if I don't butcher this. I'll paraphrase it. Being connected to nature is connected to your own, being connected to your own nature. Is that the way through the reason we connect with nature is that our nature is that nature. And actually, if nobody has read, and I think it's in school systems too, Walden is a very powerful book by Thoreau, and where he ran an experiment to just get a small piece of land, which his friend Ralph Waldo Emerson gave him, and he ran an experiment. He actually put the amounts and how much he spent to live that life, which is really cool from that time period. And you look at it, it's like $1 for this, and I'm like, oh shoot, these are very different now, but it's still interesting.
Yeah.
So what would you say separates successful coaches from the ones who give up, fail, or who never really get started?
I guess I would say the difference is a true intention to serve a community. And if your intention's clear, then you'll find the mechanism that supports you in getting that goal and the results you want. And if in commitment, if your intention's clear and you're committed to being that coach, that you'll find the way. And those that are committed with a clear intention achieve it, and those that don't.
I love that. That's very powerful. Thank you. Agreed. Where do you feel like the field of coaching is headed in your opinion?
I feel like it's growing, and we are in interesting times in this country and in this world, and our school systems aren't giving people the tools to succeed in life, and that coaching has the opportunity to allow people the space to feel comfortable and then discover who they are and how they're going to move themselves forward. And it's about giving people the space to feel free to express themselves and discover who they are, and then find the path that's going to serve them. And coaches have the tools to allow them that space and comfort to then discover who it is that they are. And with that power, it can be served in so many different avenues. Every avenue of your life can be served by coaching. And you have a coach for weight release, and a coach for business, and a coach for family, and also one coach can do all those things, because this is just about being an experience, like Sherry said, about asking the questions that help the person discover their true intention, their true beingness, and then choosing the things that serve that.
Yeah,
Release. I don't know that I've heard it termed that. I love it.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to lose it, because then you're going to find it again. And so if you're releasing it, then it's out in the universe and it's not yours. So
Yeah, I love that.
I've released weight and I am not finding it again. I don't need that weight. Someone else can take it on.
Believe me alone.
That energy's out for everybody else now, and people can take it on as they choose. But it doesn't serve me. So
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. And I really want to thank you for being with us and vulnerably sharing your path, your mission, your vision. And what I heard there is that you are on that path of service, and it doesn't matter what the medium is, but you're really connected to who you are, your passion, and you're serving people with that, or you're on your path to serving people with that. And the amount of strength and clarity and passion that comes out of that, I think it's amazing, and I really felt that. So thank you for sharing that, Zach. Thank you for being with us. And for those who are watching this, whether they're recording or live, make sure you go to our podcast page, thecoachesjourney.com, where you will see other podcast episodes, and you can also get notifications. We even have a tool for you to raise your skill sets as a coach that you can get. It's free. And also make sure you go to the Coaches Journey, the coachingmasterycommunity.com page to find out how you can join our community of coaches, where you can take your skill sets and your business to the next level among a supportive group of people. We're going to share resources, perspectives, tools, and help you understand how you can build amazing business for yourself, for your family, for your community, and for those that you're serving. And also, I'd love to know, Zach, where can people find you?
The best place is on Facebook. I'm developing. I developed all my stuff when I was in transition into law school, and so it's under construction. But Facebook is the best place. Kids Deserve Dads on Facebook. It's got this logo, and that's the best place to find me. Website will be coming here in the near future that really serves where I'm at now and where the business is going. But everything we do is on Facebook, and I'm looking forward to. What an awesome way to start my morning. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be in your guys' space. It was beautiful and so fun, and I'm looking forward to a lot more, and hopefully some campfire time together would be amazing.
Yeah, let's connect.
I'm in the Black Hills, and so when you come down to see Sherry, seeing Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse is right in my backyard. So
our journey will be south and slowly starting to go towards the west coast and come back up to north. So you'll be one of the last places that it's a long journey. I think it's close to 5,000 miles or something like that from where I am. But it'll be cool. I'm excited about
Epic.
that. Thank you, and thank you for the invitation. Also, make sure you, whoever's watching this, make sure you're liking and sharing this with somebody who needs to hear this. And I think the mission that Zach shared, it's incredibly important, and there are very rare places that you can find resources for men to actually reconnect with who they are and support their family, their path, their mission, and actually be true to who they are. I think that's such a powerful journey. So we'll put the link for Zach's Facebook page here. And until our next conversation, hope you guys have an incredible week.
Bye.
You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast.